Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you could see it, and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing a very, very special 200-piece limited edition from the model year 2014, the Jaeger-LeCoultre Duometre Quantieme Lunaire Grand Feu. 40.5 millimeters in 18 karat white gold, really gray gold, a special homogeneous mixture that never needs to be plated like conventional white gold. It is a lovely take on the moon phase date chronometer. It's a watch designed to run beyond chronometer standards with twin mainspring barrels, two separate drivetrains, two separate power sources, one regulating organ, blazing away at 6 beats per second, and you can see that fantastic foudroyant fractional seconds hand. Now the watch on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist wears a little bit smaller than the original 2007 Duometre. That was a 42 millimeter watch. In 2012, the 40.5 millimeter case debuted, and that is the size that JLC chose for this Grand Feu. The timepiece wears easily, as lug-to-lug it's only 48.8 millimeters, so it'll wear on a wrist as small as, in my estimation, 14 centimeters circumference, and despite what's inside the case, it's only 13.6 millimeters thick. The spacing between the lugs is 20 millimeters, which means you will have a world of options in that rather universal size. Plenty of aftermarket and OEM strap options in 20 millimeters. The factory strap is substantial, and I found JLC straps can be hit or miss, but the company generally specs its best on the Duometre series and the high complications. You can see it's bolstered navy blue with a monotone stitch. There is a sheer side that shows the layers of construction. It's calfskin on the underside. You can see made in France by JLC's OEM strap supplier Camille Fournet. And then there is a white gold, or I should say gray gold, matching JLC logo style pin buckle with satin finished JL logo and the remainder in high polish. A nice touch. The case band is contrasting with double finish about the case band and lugs. You can see there's satin finish about the case band and then the lugs, which are welded on, and then all evidence of the solder joint physically removed, finished in high polish, so you have that adjacent satin and polish, and the two pieces basically built up from separate components and double finished. Very difficult to do, especially when you leave such a sharp crease line between the satin and the polish with no distortion or error. There's absolutely no evidence that the watch wasn't simply summoned from the ether in this form. Beautiful execution. There's a lovely hairline bevel along the edge of the lug, and you can see the lug hoods as well as the flanks of polish. This is the second generation Duometre bezel. The first was conical. This one has a vertical component and then turns into a domed profile. Jumping over to the dial side, well, first let's talk about the crown. You can see how much effort went into just the crown. The logo at the center is polished, and there's a blasted base behind it. There's a double knurling. You can see large and small to make it a tactile pleasure to use, and of course you use this crown to wind both of the power sources. There are ratchet systems like a great valet de jeu pocket watch of the 1880s, so one winds while the other ratchets, 50 hours for each one. Two separate powertrains united at the regulator. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first we need to talk about Grand Feu enamel. In fact, we need to talk about what you're looking at here. You're looking at two power reserve indicators, one for the escapement and one for everything else on the dial, the moon phase, the date, and the time. You're looking at a 1/6 of a second foudroyant, or lightning seconds hand. You're looking at center seconds. Here you have the hours and minutes of the day, and then of course you have an aperture style brass moon phase disc with gold embellishments to create the appearance of the cosmos, and this is a dramatic change from the standard Duometre Quantieme Lunaire, which features a sort of photorealistic moon phase or an etched moon phase. This classical polished moon is substantial but also unique to the model. It looks rich. It's the way Patek does a moon phase. You also note a little note in there, Email Grand Feu, and that means that the dial is created from vitreous glass-based paints on a white gold base. Repeated applications, up to 20 of them, with the final being a clear coat, and then fired in between applications at up to 800 degrees Celsius, which is an extraordinary feat in that each individual firing can cause the dial to fracture, crack, or be discarded altogether. So it is a high casualty artisanal process. So to get the watch to this point requires immense patience and a little bit of trial and error, which is why enamel dials, Grand Feu enamel dials, repeatedly fired are very rare. No one wants to deal with that. You'll note that there are polished chapter rings for the registers to enhance the richness of the appearance, and then you have a pointer style date that's coaxial with the moon phase. I'm going to make sure the watch is not in its danger zone before I activate the moon, or I should say the date jumper, which is a push button, and has the same crisp feel of a very fine column wheel chronograph. Listen to it against the mic. It is incredibly crisp. You'll find yourself playing with the date just because. Now, I gave away part of the game a moment ago. There is a double zero reset system for hacking seconds. The idea behind this watch, chronometry, that's why it's focused almost entirely on timekeeping with just a minor complication set. So you pull the crown, and the first thing that happens is it aligns the foudroyant with 0. And then you pull the crown to its second stop, and the hammers fall on the heart cams on the reverse side, much like recentering a chronograph. And now everything is stopped and zeroed out. So you can actually set the watch using this mechanism. You can see the hammer withdrawn from the cam at center. I'll show you that one more time. Right there. That's how it works. And then it withdraws when you push the crown back in. This is caliber 381, Jaeger-LeCoultre manufacturer. Manual wind, twin mainspring barrels with 50 hours of power reserve. The idea is that you can run the complications of the watch, you can run the time, the hours, minutes, seconds, and fractions of a second. You can do all of that off of one of the barrels, which provides the motive power for the indication. The other barrel simply supplies the escapement and the balance to maintain absolute amplitude with no diminution of amplitude due to the drag of the time telling and complication functions. Normally, when you add complications to a watch, or even just add 3 hands and a date, you wind up slagging down the balance amplitude, effectively the vigor of the movement, closely related to its ability to keep good time. So with 2 power sources, you double the power as you increase the load, and you ensure that there is a very even amplitude from maximum wind to minimum wind. You'll also note that the watch is artisanally finished with mirrored anglage on every bridge. You could see that that's also true of the jewel and screw countersinks, which are gleaming. There's a sensational Côte de Soleil sunburst that radiates out from the balance as the imaginary center point rather than Côte de Genève. You'll also note that there is an engine turn perlage in several different sides on the base plate. Take note of 2 types of screw, black polished and fired blue screws. The watch has both. A free-sprung index, so the watch is able to be adjusted very precisely and then hold that regulation in the face of vibration, bumps, disruptions, and knocks on the wrist. The balance is very large. It has a large polar moment. You'll also note that it is bouncing away at a rather stately 21,600 vibrations per hour. Finally, all of the wheels of the train are satin grained, and the bridges themselves are made of what's known as German silver in Germany, or Maillot in the watch-speaking, or I should say French-speaking watchmaking regions of Switzerland. It's a nickel copper zinc alloy, which is why it looks golden compared to the barrels themselves, which are highly silvered. That golden hue is the result of the copper in the nickel copper zinc. You'll also appreciate the fact that the movement is very deep and you can glance through it diagonally just as you can glance down upon it. Anything else to mention? Well, it's all 50 meters water resistant, which is impressive for a dress watch, much less a complication with multiple through case fittings. You can see the final one being the adjuster for the moon phase that's between the lugs at 12 o'clock. So this is a timepiece that is both technically sophisticated and aesthetically sophisticated. Equal measure engineering and artisanal craft. It's the best of all possible worlds. It's uniquely Jaeger-LeCoultre, a manufacturer that has not just movement making, but all watchmaking disciplines under its roof. See it and make it yours on the Watchbox.